Welcome to Books I Make My Husband Read, a self-described hilarious and heartfelt podcast where I, Kristy, the devoted book lover, curate an unexpected reading list for my husband, John.
And that's me. In each episode, we dive into lively discussions, humorous debates, and unexpected insights on all the books Kristy just has to make me read.
We're here to explore everything from your book club favorites to quirky hidden gems, challenging our perspectives and inviting you to join in on the fun.
So, settle in, grab your favorite beverage, and get ready for another literary adventure.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to Season 4, Episode 5 of Books I Make My Husband Read. I'm your host, Kristy.
And hey, folks, I'm John. I'm the husband. I'm the one that Kristy forces all these books upon me against my will. And then I wind up enjoying most of them.
It's totally not against your will, but okay. I mean, you do edit the podcast yourself.
I know. I guess that's true. I did sign up for this a little bit.
Well, here we are talking about our fifth book and film combo this season.
Right. And if this is your first episode listening to us this season, you may not know that we are discussing the book and the book's film adaptation, which has been kind of fun. And this week, we're going to be discussing all things from the Great Gatsby. That's right, folks. A classic and... Nope, that's it. Just a classic.
Yes, and since we've had people ask, we watched the most recent film that came out in 2013 with Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire, and Carey Mulligan.
Yeah, because there's been a handful. How many did you learn? Four?
Four.
How many of these? Yeah, four.
Yes,
There
and
are,
I'm sure 2013. So in 2030s sometime, there'll be another one. So we'll get to enjoy another one. Yes, I put money on it. So why did I pick this book for John? Well, when I knew we were doing film adaptations, I knew I wanted to do a classic because there are actually a lot to choose from as far as classic books go that have been adapted to film and multiple times usually. This is one that I knew John hadn't read. This was one that I actually hadn't seen the film and was excited to see the film myself. So I just thought it would be a great addition. And I had read The Great Gatsby previously, and I do remember a friend telling me that she reads it like every few years and finds something to enjoy about it every time she rereads it. So I thought, great, maybe I'll find something new to enjoy during this reread and then watch. So
nice. That's fun. Yeah, you're right. I hadn't read the book. I actually hadn't seen the movie either, even though I remember wanting to. I kind of loved the whole Roaring 20s vibe, jazz scene. So I was excited that this one was on the list. So before we get into our full conversation, though, we wanted to let all of our listeners know which books Kristy's forcing upon me next.
Stop saying that.
Those next two books in our lineup are going to be Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, and then our final book, which I know you are very excited about, our final book for the season is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And the movie comes out this week in theaters or soon?
Maybe the 20th. Maybe it's next week.
Yeah, so like end of March or something, I think.
Yeah, so maybe by the time this episode airs, it'll be that Friday, I think.
Yeah, right on.
But yes, you're not wrong. I'm so freaking excited. This was one of the books that made me think, hey, let's do film adaptations, because I knew he wanted to do The Housemaid. I knew he wanted to do Project Hail Mary, which both had releases this quarter. So that kind of started it. And I'm just really excited. I hope the film is amazing. The trailer looks great, although I've been kind of trying to avoid most of it because I don't want to know too much. I want to go in cold. So I am really excited. I'm going to do that one on audio because I've heard the audio is amazing with the extraterrestrial, so I'm excited for that. Yeah.
Okay, right on. I was gonna I thought about reading that one, the physical version of that, but maybe I'll do the audio version also. Cool.
And I just saw a clip of this. So the person who does the audio, the narrator and the audio, said he had not read it prior to doing the audio. So he says when you hear maybe like emotion in his voice, while he's speaking, it's because he's experiencing it for the first time too.
Oh, that's a fun little fact
Yeah.
of the okay, cool. Good tip. And hey, if you guys wind up listening to this whole episode and you enjoy the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you might be listening to us. So,
all right.
go
Are you
ahead.
ready for that spoiler-free book summary?
I guess that is the time of the season.
Nick Caraway, a young man who moves to Long Island in the summer of 1922, finds himself drawn into the glittering, excessive world of his wealthy neighbors. Living next door to the mysterious and fabulously rich Jay Gatsby, Nick becomes fascinated by the lavish parties Gatsby throws every weekend, events attended by crowds of strangers who know little about the man hosting them.
And as Nick becomes part of his social circle, he reconnects with his cousin, Daisy Buchanan, and her husband, Tom, whose marriage hides tensions beneath its polished surface. Through his growing friendship with Gatsby, Nick begins to learn about Gatsby's past, his ambitions, and the powerful dream that seems to drive everything he does.
Set against the backdrop of the Jazz Age, the novel explores wealth, class, love, and the illusion of the American dream. Beneath the glamour and the extravagance of the era, The Great Gatsby reveals a world where appearance often hide deeper truths and where the pursuit of dreams can come with profound consequences.
Yep. Yes, they can. Well, ladies and gents,
And
this
ladies and sons of ladies.
we'll go with that. Ladies and sons of ladies. This is the time of the episode where we let you know that everything from this point forward is going to contain spoilers, both the book and the film. So go ahead, shake yourself or stir yourself a martini, pour yourself champagne, whatever your flavor is, jump in the pool and swim on out of here.
All right, old sport. Tell me what you thought about this book.
Well, I have discovered that I don't know if I enjoy classic books here, and I don't know that I have a good reason, but I'm just going to share my thoughts. I found it really challenging to get into. I thought the setup was like hard for me to follow. The the language and the way the style of the prose was different, and you could sort of feel its age, so to speak. And I
Sure.
just found that challenging. I found some of the dialogue and dialect to be a little challenging. The storyline in general, a little hard to parse and follow. And I think I wanted more from it than it had, or I thought there would be more mystery. I don't know. My expectations didn't wind up aligning with what the story was, and I went in totally blind, and it was just like this one for me was just okay, which is really unfortunate because I wanna love it. I love the era and that sort of like Roaring Twenties. Just that just that whole era is just so cool. But the book fell flat, and maybe it's because of classic, and maybe it's because I'm not a literary savant or something. I don't know, but
Don't ever do that again.
it was just okay for me.
I I I think the things you're bringing up are correct and are why some people don't enjoy it as much as maybe a more contemporary fiction novel. The language is definitely different. I remember the first time, and this is obviously much older, I read a Jane Austen novel, and my friend it was Pride and Prejudice. She's like, "How are you enjoying it?" And I was like, "I don't think I know what the fuck is going on." Because the prose is so different, the words that they use are so different. And so she's like, "Well, what do you think's going on?" And then I told her, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, you got it." So it is different, but you pick up, I think, what you need to pick up, but it can make reading it physically challenging, which is
Yeah,
probably what you're experiencing. You're like, okay, I would never say that in the way that F. Scott Fitzgerald are saying it, or like the characters are saying it.
right.
So I can completely understand that. I also think this is one of those novels that F. Scott Fitzgerald, Francis Scott Key Fitzgerald, who went by Scott, is trying to get a point across. He is not just writing a novel that is about two characters who do this thing and have this ending, or whatever that looks like. He's trying to get a point across about something. So there's a lot of symbolism in the book. There's a lot of like deeper hidden meanings about things. There's things that, make you go, and then talk about it. And that's why this is required reading, or it was in a lot of classrooms. But I think that, and we'll talk through some of these, and so maybe you'll have a different appreciation coming out of this conversation. I'm not expecting to change your mind, but maybe you'll go, oh, I didn't think about it that way. Because I definitely feel like that from books that like I read in school, and then you discuss them and you start realizing this meant this and this is what he was trying to say here. So
sure. I fully anticipate that to happen actually as part of this conversation, just because I wasn't reading it for symbolism. I wasn't really reading it from an analytical eye like someone would if it was assigned, in a class. So I fully anticipate to learn things in this conversation.
With that in mind, I wanted to tell you when we get into these questions, this might feel a little like an English class. I didn't want that to scare you. So I'm glad you were already set up for that and you're like not thinking you're going to hate this.
Yeah, I didn't. I'm glad you set it up that way, because if I didn't enjoy English class growing up, so I probably would have went in with a little bit more reservation. But no, I'm ready to like kind of hear your more analytical approach to this book, because I assume that's why it has lasted as long as this has, and it is a classic, is because of all the symbolism, and it went right over my head.
I think specifically the idea of the American dream, one, what that is or what that means. Can it mean different things? And is it achievable? And then that, this was in the 1920s. Are we experiencing some of those same things now? And I think there's a lot of things that are relevant to right now and what that looks like. So exactly what you're saying, like the longevity of the story and how it can be relevant today. But I think really the best way to talk about this book is by going through each of the four main characters and kind of analyzing them within the story, because I think that'll set up some of those thoughts and how we have conversation as we like move throughout. But I think we can't do that unless we talk about the characters.
Sure.
So our narrator is Nick Caraway, and he describes himself as someone who reserves all judgment. But do you think he actually does? And how reliable of a narrator do you think he is?
I think for the most part, he does a decent job of reserving judgment, though I wouldn't say he's 100% free and clear of such things, which as human beings is really difficult to do in general.
Absolutely.
But I think he does honestly try his best to look at the people that he's surrounded himself with through a different lens. He might be frustrated at something, but he's not necessarily passing judgment on someone's character or whatever. Well, maybe later on he does actually, but that's probably part of the journey of his character arc. I think, is he a reliable narrator? Given my limited knowledge of that term, I think yes. So that's my answer. If I get a B, I'm okay with that.
This will not be graded.
Oh, okay.
Unless you want it to be.
I sure don't. So lay it on me.
So I think some of the things you're pointing out are, correct, or you're like thinking about things in the right way and pointing out the right things. I think Nick wants to believe he's neutral. He's a narrator who has strong feelings, especially about Gatsby. And I think that bias shapes how we as readers experience the story. So I think you also remember, like, he's a very involved narrator. So he's not telling us this as the story is unfolding and he's kind of watching from the outside. He's a participant in these events and he's telling it to us after they've happened. So
Right.
it's filtered through memories and reflections and maybe things he wishes he would have, done differently or how he thinks something would have gone. I do think he positions himself as someone that the reader can trust, but I think the way he judges Tom versus how he judges Gatsby or even Daisy,
Daisy, yeah.
like, he's really forgiving of Gatsby's flaws, but he's much harsher to some of those other characters, including Jordan as well, who is more of a side character here,
Mm-hmm.
but with that said, like, I don't think he's completely unreliable. Like, I don't think he's flat out lying to us about the story. I think it probably went mostly that way. Like, if we had points of views from the other 3 main characters, they would probably be pretty similar.
Sure. Okay.
I
Yeah, that
don't
makes
think
sense.
so I don't think he's, like, lied or embellished or anything like that, but I do think we're intended to think of Tom and even Daisy as, like, the villains of the story, and then Gatsby as the victim based on how Nick is telling it.
Sure. Because of how he views Gatsby and because of his desire
Well,
to be like Gatsby?
no, I just think that if he was a truly impartial narrator, that the story would feel colder, maybe, because
Mm,
you feel the love for Gatsby and the admiration for Gatsby, and then the hurt when the fallout of Gatsby dying and spoiler
mm,
and no one coming to his funeral and no one caring at
yeah.
all, and how much that like angered and hurt him. And if he was presenting Gatsby in the same way he presents Tom, who have a lot of the same flaws, then I think the story would read differently. So
Right.
I think he's intending to be like, this is how it happened, but still through the lens of his emotional tie and admiration for Gatsby and the disappointment he has in everyone else around him in the story.
I see. I see. Okay. Yeah, I learned something.
Yay! All right, so what did you think of next on the list? What did you think of Gatsby as a character? Is he romantic and admirable, or is he ultimately delusional?
I know you usually hate when I answer questions like this, but I would say he's probably like somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. In that, does he have certain romantic and admirable actions based on his love and admiration for Daisy? Yes. Do I think some of them are also a bit misplaced? Yes. Do I think he's a bit delusional in his grand vision of how easy it'll be and that he'll just woo her so quickly and pick her up like Prince Charming and off they go into the castle and live happily ever after? Yeah, I think he's probably a little delusional with that. So I think there are droplets of all of those traits within him, which probably makes him a really interesting character to root for, or look at as potentially a victim of the story or the protagonist of the story, I guess, if you want to call it that. So, what do you think? What's your response?
I think you're right. I think he's both.
A plus.
He's romantic in his devotion and ambition, but he's also, like you said, he's deeply delusional about the past and about who Daisy really is.
Mm,
Gatsby is the ultimate dreamer.
you're right.
Everything about him is built on a single idea, which is recreating the past with Daisy. His wealth, his mansion, the parties that all exist to bring Daisy back into his life. And there is something admirable about that level of devotion. I mean, the man completely reinvents himself. He comes from nothing, builds a new identity, visions
Hmm.
a better life, all for Daisy. The problem with that is he doesn't just want Daisy back. If he just wanted Daisy back, this would be a different story. But what Gatsby wants is to erase the last 5 years of both of their lives and pretend
Right.
that didn't happen at all.
Right. True. Good point. And that's very pointed in the
Yes.
book and the film. Yeah.
Yeah. So when Nick makes the comment, you can't change the past, and Gatsby says, sure you can. You look so flippant about it, like, sure you can, old sport. I think that's when we get the first real glimpse at how detached from reality he really is.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah. Okay.
Gatsby isn't in love with Daisy as she exists now. He's in love with this idealized version of her and really what she represents, I think. Wealth,
Yeah.
status, the life he believes he was meant to have.
Yeah. Which I think in real life, a lot of us do. A lot of us fall in love with the idea of someone or the idea of something and
Mhm.
choose to misplace or displace some of the realities that come along with those ideas and those desires.
Yep. So what I think that Fitzgerald does here is he creates a character whose qualities, the hope, the devotion that Gatsby has almost seem heroic, but they're also deeply tragic because they're not at all, like I said, grounded in reality. Daisy is one of the most debated characters in literature. Did you find her sympathetic, frustrating, or somewhere in between?
This one is actually probably a little bit harder for me to answer with any clarity because I struggled with her in the book of just like understanding her motivations, understanding her point of view, understanding where she was coming from. Uh, I think I was missing a lot of the depth of her character from the book. So I struggled with her, just like getting a good grip on her as a character. I struggled with it through the prose. I struggled with it just her devotion, like between Tom or to Tom, her relationship with Nick even felt a little like, I know they were cousins, but like some of it could have come across as flirtatious or whatever as well. And so,
I think it's also a
uh,
little style of the language back then
yeah,
but
I
yeah.
agreed.
But you're not
Agreed.
wrong. Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess I can understand why she's probably one of the most debated characters because I'm sure she's wildly complex, but her complexity, I think, just went over my head.
I don't know that it went over your head, but I think that maybe exactly what you said, she is one of the most debated characters for that reason because some people pick up on, some things, some people pick up on other things. I think like the question, she's both sympathetic and she's deeply frustrating. I find her sympathetic because I think the expectations of women during that time were very narrow. I think they're especially narrow in the rigid social world that she grew up in. I mean, think about the line where she says she wants her daughter, that she hopes that she'll be a beautiful little fool. It sounds to me like she's understanding the limits placed on women within her society, like at that time.
Hmm.
Like not just in society, but specifically, like I said, in her social circle.
Yeah, that line, I thought she was referring to her relationship with Tom because that unfolded right as like Tom's mistress was calling the house and she was frustrated. She knew who it was. And so I thought that line when she was telling Nick that about her daughter, that it was more about, which I guess maybe that's what you're saying, but
That's exactly like it's all those things. So it's like, I'm only this. I'm only a
only,
housewife. I'm expected my husband to cheat on me. I'm expected to look a certain way and keep a certain household. Like, do all those things that were expected of, you know, wealthy women during that time period. So,
I
yeah.
see.
Yep. So, for all the like those reasons, like I had sympathy toward her because she lives in this very rigid, like narrow lane of life. And she has had few opportunities to experience a different way of living. But of course, she's also deeply frustrating because she refuses to take responsibility for the consequences of any of her choices. She's extremely privileged, but she's also extremely careless. And she moves through life protected by the status that the wealth gives her. But I think for Daisy, and maybe this is like you kind of pointed out, maybe not in this language of what I just said, but like you pointed out both those things. But I think Daisy's biggest flaw for me is avoidance. So if you think about the story, when situations become uncomfortable or morally complicated, Daisy tends to retreat. She doesn't want to confront them at all.
Sure.
So Gatsby has tracked her down. Years later, he's amassed this wealth for her, and yet she just wants the affair to be enough. And so I think that's why readers find her frustrating. And then when he tries to confront her on these things, she just avoids it. And she
Got
lets the
it.
affair continue. She strings him along in a way because like he wants to tell Tom, and yet she's like, can't this be enough? And then when he wants to confront Tom at the dinner, she avoids him, like, let's go to New York. So yes, she's sympathetic. Yes, she's frustrating, but she's also just a product of her environment. So I
Yeah.
think what Fitzgerald does with this character is he uses her as a symbol of wealth and status and the hollowness that comes with it.
Interesting. Okay. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Okay, so our fourth character, Tom, he's clearly problematic. But do you feel like the novel uses him simply as a villain, or does he represent something larger about wealth and entitlement? Different than Daisy does.
I took him as the villain of the story, right, wrong, or indifferent. I did pick up on, that Gatsby shared some of his characteristics or traits. I think you're, as the reader, meant to root for Daisy and Gatsby to be together, and he plays the linchpin that won't allow that to happen. That's not really true, but I think that's how I read it, and that's how I took it. And because he was sort of immovable and he wasn't going to give Daisy what she wanted, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, that he was sort of the villain. So, but I think to your point, it is sort of it. I think he does represent, thinking about it a little bit more through this conversation, he does represent a say something larger about sort of entitlement and wealth and uh, what that means. So, yeah.
Yeah, Tom is an interesting character when you think, like you said, the wealth compared to his money and then like Gatsby. So Tom is arrogant. He's openly racist. He's controlling. He's hypocritical, horribly hypocritical. And I think Fitzgerald wants us to feel repelled by him. At
Yeah.
like every page, he wants us to go, that's horrible. He's this horrible person because Tom isn't just a person. What he's representing in the book is old money. Unlike Gatsby, who's built his wealth, who's built his own identity, Tom was born into privilege and he's never had to earn anything in society. That's why he
Right.
feels threatened by Gatsby.
Oh, okay. Yep, I see that. I picked up on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So Gatsby's success challenges this idea that wealth and status only belong to people like Tom. So Tom sees Gatsby as this outsider trying to infiltrate his world.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
As opposed to an equal, because they're both
Mm,
equally wealthy. It's how that wealth was accumulated separates their status.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's
Interesting.
what right. So you already pointed this out or we discussed this, but Tom's entitlement also allows him to act without consequence. So he cheats on Daisy, he treats other people poorly, he creates chaos, but in the end his wealth completely insulates him. Think about the circumstances that they left Chicago. Like, he literally created chaos there with his affair, and then they just moved to New York City like nothing happened, just living it up.
Right. And that's what Daisy was referring to when she referenced that in the book. And now he's doing it again in New York, worried that
Exactly.
they're going to have to just pick up and move again
Right.
somewhere else. Yeah.
And that really ties into the novel's bigger themes. So I feel like Fitzgerald is critiquing a system where the wealthy can cause damage, then retreat into their, you know, palaces, and others have to pay the price. So
Yeah.
he is really the villain in the story, but he's not just a villain. He embodies this carelessness and destructive power that inherited wealth can bring.
I mean, he's really a byproduct of his environment, no different than Daisy is a byproduct of her environment as well, right? Like you could kind of those two feel very similar. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
there's gender differences, but they're still both
vast.
byproducts of
Yeah.
their environments. Yeah.
Yes, but I think those are large in the way and how destructive like Tom is, and
Yeah.
yeah, and also how he treats people as well. The novel is often described as a critique of the American dream. What do you think Fitzgerald is saying about ambition, success, and social mobility?
Well, a couple of things. I guess I would say that it's one of the things that I took away from the book is that it's lonely at the top, and that is kind of, I took that from Gatsby's death and how no one came for him, no one came to his funeral, even though they all freely partied at his house and spoke of him highly, or whatever. I think that there is a ruthlessness to social mobility and success, which honestly probably isn't all that different from today. And there's a cost to, I guess, there's a cost to the American dream, and what version of the American dream are you wanting, and how much are you willing to pay for it? So in my limited literature lens, that those are my takeaways from in those themes.
I think what you're pointing out is right, but I think there's like a larger point. So
I would absolutely bet that there is.
No, like I don't think that's bad. I think like you're right there. So I think in the world that Fitzgerald creates in this novel. So like obviously you're seeing things historically like this. We're seeing things now like this, but in this novel specifically, and what Fitzgerald creates for us, I feel like he's suggesting that the American dream is distorted. So Gatsby really represents the classic version. And again, how he obtained his wealth aside, but he comes from nothing. He reinvents himself through this ambition and determination, misguided as it is. But on paper, he achieves what the dream promises: wealth, influence, this new identity. But what he does not get is acceptance. So despite the wealth, it's the old money that really never accepts him into their world. So the Toms and the Daisies of the world. So I think what Fitzgerald is saying is social mobility has limits. And that suggests no matter how hard someone works, there are barriers that are going to keep certain people on the outside. And then I think, and you actually were like, what is the American dream kind of thing? I think that the book distorts that or shifts that a little bit. And it's like, is it from building a good life to just chasing wealth and status? Like which one is it? Like, do we think of the American dream as like, I have what I need, I'm free, versus like, I have to have everything and be accepted in this way that I might not get?
Yeah. Gatsby even at one point talks about like there's no stopping. He has to keep climbing, or he has to keep going up, which probably speaks to that. Where do you think Nick falls? Like, do you think, is Nick's character just a different flavor of the American dream compared to like Gatsby's and Daisy's and Tom's?
I think that's a great question. I mean, I would think that Nick represents that other, like, I have enough, I have a job, I don't need to be excessive. I mean, he leaves the Midwest, he moves to New York. He is drawn in by the glitz and glamour of it and like the vastness of it, and he seems very content with living in his little cottage and at his bonds job. I think he's happy with that.
Yeah, I thought so too. That's how I took it. That's what made me think of the question, if he was sort of meant to portray like that version or that side of the spectrum of the dream.
Yeah. So my last point here with this is I think what Fitzgerald is trying to ask the reader is the dream real? Or was it ever real?
Got it.
Like the idea that this promise of just like limitless opportunity is really partly an illusion, when things like social class and privilege and old money wealth still control access to things.
Yeah. Do you think it's an illusion?
In the era we live in now? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only one we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's little room for people with the way the wealth gap is widening. There is such a narrow lane for people to be successful entrepreneurs. And there's people that are going to argue with me on this, but like have this like $1 million idea kind of thing. Like that used to be like the $1 million idea. Well, if it's not a fucking $1 billion idea anymore, it doesn't even matter. So I think when I think of what the American dream was, actually, the podcast, I think I mentioned this podcast last time, that Obama and Bruce Springsteen did, they actually talk about the American dream and what that means. And Bruce Springsteen and his family like felt like they were living the American dream growing up. Like his family was poor, but he's like, we always had enough food on the table. We always like got something for Christmas. We were clothed. We were happy. And that to us was living the American dream.
Right.
We were free. We were fed. We were happy. And now it's like people think of the American dream as this enormous amount of like obtaining this enormous amount of wealth. And if that's what the American dream is for you, I think that it's very narrow. And I don't think a lot of people are ever going to achieve it. Again, with the idea that it's still, there's limitations that old money has on access versus living just a life where you can provide for yourself. Okay, last question before we move into talking about the film adaptation. Why do you think The Great Gatsby continues to resonate with readers nearly a century after it was published? Or maybe you don't because it didn't resonate with you.
Maybe. But I mean, through this discussion, I think I formed an answer to this question now, in that it still speaks to societal like entitlement or status of wealth. It still resonates in I mean, for me personally, because I just think the 20s are just such a fascinating era to begin with in all kinds of ways, both like economically in the country, musically in the country, technologically in the country. Of course, there's also, the Great Crash and all that. But I just think that whole decade is just,
women
I just
could
think
vote.
What?
I know, right? Did you know that? 51% of the population actually gets a say.
So I think it speaks of themes that are deeply rooted in humans, no matter if it's a century ago or not. So that's my takeaway from our conversation on this book so far.
Yeah. I think those are great takeaways.
Thanks.
Yeah.
What about you? Why do you think it still resonates?
I think the idea of chasing status or success or wealth, whatever that looks like for an individual, is something that most people in some way can relate to. Like the idea, or I wouldn't even say the idea, the pressure to achieve wealth or the perfect life, the idealized life, like that hasn't changed. We're 100 years later, that really hasn't changed. And I think the novel also explores the gap between appearance and reality, and that feels especially modern. Like, many characters project this glamorous image while hiding messy or unhappy lives underneath. And I mean, if that doesn't play out on social media, like, I don't know what it is. And F. Scott Fitzgerald had no fucking clue what social media would be.
Right. But yeah, it is. That's very just human, very human behavior.
Yeah.
Any way you slice it.
Yeah. And I think Gatsby specifically is a timeless character. I think people connect with the idea of believing so strongly in something, in a dream, and whatever it is, even when it's unrealistic. Like, people admire that.
Yeah.
Like, you put everything into this one thing, your whole determination. Like, that is something that people admire, connect with, whatever the case may be. Like, we love stories like that. We love stories like that. And then we've already touched on this several times, but the book also critiques privilege and inequality and shows how wealth can protect some people while other people have to face the consequences.
Preach.
Yep. The poors. Poor.
The poors.
Yes.
Oy.
The non 1%ers, which is all of us.
99%.
Sorry. I was actually thinking like the wealth, not the percentage, but yeah, you're right.
It came off. That's funny.
Yes.
It came off funny.
Math is hard.
Math is hard.
Not that hard. All right, let's transition to film and talk about that a little bit.
Okay, finally.
One of our biggest criticisms in the film adaptations that we've covered this season is how directors have chosen to bring internal dialogue and first-person narration to life on screen. In this film, they added a framing device with Nick writing the story in a sanitarium. What did you think about this?
Okay, two things. One, in like full transparency mode, when we started watching a movie, I was like, is this did this happen in the book? Because I didn't pick it up if it did, which wouldn't have surprised me. Because I'd said like the whole first chapter or two in the book were just so hard for me to ground myself in what's
going on.
So I was like, is this how? Because this is kind of cool. But anyway, I thought it worked really pretty well actually to communicate the story and to communicate it so verbatim, which I have other thoughts on from the book, is even down to like the dialogue, how the dialogue was delivered and things like that. And so it made sense because in the film he's writing the book. So I thought it was a great mechanism.
Yeah. I absolutely
once I realized
agree.
It was an actual mechanism and not like how the book was.
Yes, this does not happen in the book. It is a mechanism, and it is leaps and bounds the best way used. Although obviously Shawshank is amazing, but my only critique of it was that I feel like there could have been more use of that and less scene. That way readers could have got like because the story is told through Nick's lens.
Right.
And you don't connect with it in the way you're supposed to on film. It's just a story. But
I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
Right. You're seeing a story. In the book, you're learning about the ideas and the message that Fitzgerald is trying to get across. I don't think that comes through in the film. And I actually think I have a question about that. But the tool used, A+ to the directors. Yep. I love the idea that he's writing this book. Love that he like changed the name at the end. I thought that was cute.
Yeah, that was great. Little touch. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Were there moments from the book you felt were missing or changed in a way that affected the story?
I didn't think of any, but I think you just alluded to it in your answer previously about how you're not getting the symbolism or the message that's being delivered through these characters because you're just getting from story. I wouldn't have thought about that on my own, so I'm totally stealing your answer for this.
Yeah. Good job.
Thanks. Real good job. How would you steal your own answer for this, or do you have a different answer for this question?
Well, I have a couple of things. I think like we talked about the mechanism. I don't think we get enough of it because I think we need more of Nick's internal reflection to really understand the moral emptiness of the world that he's observing and writing about. That just doesn't come through. Also, there's very little of Jordan Baker and the role she plays in the movie. She's there, but like you don't learn anything about her. And in the book, she adds to that moral emptiness. When you think about her cheating in the golf game, or implied that like she cheats at the golf game, and then there's like another scenario where Nick actually realizes like, oh, she actually just doesn't fucking care. And it's because she's in this same circle and she can do these things without consequence. So we don't get her really a lot on the screen. And I think that she represents that in the book.
Got it.
I also think it's interesting how they portray how Gatsby made his money in the film versus in the book. In the book, it's implied that he's like a bootlegger, but it's clearly overt in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's no doubt that how he's made his money.
Yeah.
But I feel like the book is intended to give you, like, almost the mystique of Gatsby. Like, is he in some illegal stuff? No, he can't be in some illegal stuff. He seems like such a stand-up guy. He calls everyone old sport. This guy can't be doing illegal shit. Like, he seems like such a good dude. It kind of makes you question, and then it also makes you, when you feel the fallout of no one caring about him, it also makes you not care about how he made his money.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't agree with prohibition, so I don't really know that I would care. I mean, Tom seems to really care about how Gatsby made his money, yet he's visiting speakeasies. So
right, and enjoying the
right
the privilege of that. Yeah, I actually there was a moment in the book where I actually wondered if Gatsby's money was just all a fallacy. Like he actually didn't
had
earn
no
anything.
money.
He had no money at all. It was all just show, pomp and circumstance, dog and pony show, whatever other
Smoke and
metaphor you want
mirrors.
to use, smoke and mirrors. Obviously that wasn't the case, but that did cross my mind a couple of times. And I think maybe it's because of how it was written. It was sort of like there was a mystery to it. It wasn't very explicit. It wasn't clear how or where it came from.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that's a great point. And shows that you felt that way as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Second to last question, because you always know what the last one really is. If someone has never read the book, do you think the film would communicate the story clearly?
No. I think you can watch the movie, be entertained, and
Are you not entertained?
Good one. But I don't, as with so many adaptations, like it just falls flat with some of the depth of what the book is trying to communicate, even though, like I said, I didn't really get the depth when I read the book either, until we talk about it here. But I could
You're
see
like,
that
the book's under 200 pages. How do you have so much to say?
Yeah, but I think the book can stand on its own, or I'm sorry, I think the film can stand on its own. One thing that I wish the movie would have done, there's a nuance in adaptations when something is based on a book and when something is inspired by a book or a story. And I feel like when something is based on it, it's much more literal. It's much more direct to the book. And when something's inspired by, the director and the creative team can have a little bit more creative liberties with this. I wish this would have been more inspired by the book and not based on the book. And like, especially if you're going to take stylistic liberties with some of the things like the music and the flashiness and maybe some of the other things, like push that further, use regular dialogue, or just move away from having to feel like you have to hit these specific moments from the book. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox about that now, and you can answer your question.
To that point, this book would be a wonderful film that is not set in the 1920s, but is set right now. And literally you can tell the same story with wealth, with someone trying to enter that realm, with, I don't know, I'm just going to say someone like making their money selling drugs, however people make money illegally now, who knows, washing money, racketeering, throwing out words. But I think that would be a wonderful film. It would tell the story and it could still get the message across that Fitzgerald, I think, is intending to say, but it doesn't have to be set then.
Yeah. I wonder if, and I think this is the same director, the Romeo and Juliet movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes from way back in the 90s, like that very stylistic approach, even though they use Shakespearean language in there, but it was set in modern day. And so I think hearing you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, this could totally fit that similar sort of style also, of a sort of modern take
It is the same director
on that.
Yep.
So that would be pretty fun. I would go see that. Maybe that'll be the fifth iteration of
yeah.
of this.
Who do we pitch this to?
This book? Yeah. Here's our $10,000 idea.
Yeah, $10,000 deal. We'd probably have to pay someone to do it. We would make no money. We would be poor.
Oh goodness.
So yeah, I think the movie's fine. It's not a great. It's a fine. It's just okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever.
6 or 7 for me.
Yes, I would lean more to 6, but
I probably would too.
But the book it's really trying to get a message across, and the film just does not do that.
Yeah.
The film is about other things. The film is about the tragedy of the relationship in Gatsby, not the
societal.
the societal, like, what does the American dream mean? Right. Is it achievable?
Right.
This moral decay, like, that's what it's about. Truth. So how did you enjoy English class today?
I actually learned a little bit. So, I won't transfer next semester out of this one.
So with that, now here's my actual last question that I always ask. Maybe after our discussion, do you have any final thoughts on the book? Anything maybe that like popped up? Would you recommend this to our listeners, and should they watch the film?
Yeah, I think I have a new, better appreciation for the book after this conversation. I think I understand a little bit better why it's a classic. I honestly, after reading it, I wasn't really sure, like, what am I missing? Like, why is this book so fucking popular? Or has lasted so long. I shouldn't say popular, but it's lasted as long as it has. The movie, you know what? It's fun. I think it can stand on its own. It's a decently entertaining 2 hours. It's not super deep. It's flashy, and the style is cool. I think Tobey Maguire is actually, I thought, like a weird casting choice personally.
I did too.
For Nick. I don't know why, but he just felt like the odd man out.
Yeah.
I realize he is a little bit in the book too, but it went to like another level with his cast. Not that I don't dislike Tobey Maguire. I just think he was not the right person cast for this. Anyway, those are my final thoughts.
I also think that there's an audio version of this book that Tim Robbins narrates.
And so Tim Robbins.
That's Nick Caraway to me, because he's just this awkward dude.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it didn't translate on screen with Tobey Maguire,
yeah.
who I have no problems with, except I feel bad that his name is Toby, but I don't really have problems with him as an actor in general. But I don't feel like he met the moment of what I feel when I read about Nick Caraway.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, old sport, if you got nothing else, we want to remind everyone that the next 2 books in our lineup are Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens and Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And as always, don't forget that a free way to support our show is by leaving us a review and rating us on Apple Podcasts. If you don't want to rate us, but you have a question or feedback on the show, you can email us at booksimakemyhusbandread@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
We would. And tell another book lover. Tell your dog. Play it for your babies. We don't care. It still counts as a stream.
I mean, I love that you tell your dog, but unless he knows how to speak or use a laptop,
yeah,
not helping us out.
Not helping us. Anyways, tell others that you think might enjoy the show, and maybe there's a book that we've covered in the past couple of seasons or this season that they've read, and we'd love to hear their thoughts on it. So,
yes,
that's it.
Well, I guess that's it.
That, my dearest Kristy, is another one in the books.
Well, who knows? Maybe this will be the one your husband reads.
Maybe.
Or maybe he already has, because he was in high school. He read it in high school, and you can have him read it again and really understand it.
Or not, talk like about me.
It. Or not. Have him read it, not understand it, and then listen to this episode. Yeah. And his mind will be blown.
Okay, then. Love you. Bye-bye.
See ya.